Hello and welcome to another Ammach Project Archives series. In this episode, we are still with the interviews and we're meeting Joanna IATRIDOU, Greek-born and having lived in England for many years. Joanna studied law, amongst other things, and came to me with some very challenging experiences, and I'm sure you may find them the same. Her experiences started only 4 years old with shadow people who were threatening and hateful toward her, which in many years later she was to find out was to do with a past life incarnation in which she was responsible for the loss of a lot of life. Moving on, Joanna's experiences from a young age were also very high vibration, and she found herself open to a lot of different experiences, including leaving the body and then being pushed back and meeting up with an ET of kinds who was very cross with her about that. So she brings an interesting perspective, and we wrap up with her talking about her experiences as a targeted individual, and you will see some of the freedom of information requests Joanna made in light of evidence of directed energy weapon attacks, also known as active denial system or technology. So this one's a little bit different, just over an hour, about an hour and 10. So I hope you enjoy this and appreciate that everybody's different, and these experiences really can be quite challenging. Enjoy.
Next we have Joanna IATRIDOU, and Joanna's from Greece, but she now lives in London, and she's been having experiences as far as she can recall from about 4 years old. However, Joanna wants to tell us about an experience in a dream that she had last night first.
Thank you for having me here, and I saw the other interviews. I was attracted to the authenticity. I'm happy to give the side of my reality, because we are really searching right now. And I want to start with yesterday morning, as I was saying, because rarely I have so vivid dreams. So yesterday morning I saw my grandmother with two different hands, and this is what I want to talk about. My grandmother has passed away a long time, and she was born in 1896. So to me this is the Flying Star 5. Those who know the flying stars from the Chinese calendars, the ancient, perhaps they know that 5 is the star of the Yellow Emperor, and that this symbolizes the year 2013 ahead of us. So I was sitting with my grandmother, who to me means the year 2013, end of January until 2013. And she had two different hands. So first I took and checked her right hand. So her right hand, her fingers were glued together. They were actually one thing, very long and very thin. And as I was checking that, how strange is that shape of her right hand, then I saw her left hand. And her left hand was unnaturally big, with 5 monstrous big fingers, like a giant's hand, and ugly nails. And to me the left hand signifies not just the left hand like witchcraft and paganism and Wicca, but something more evil intentions. So this to me was a warning that criminality and evil intentions and destroy attitudes are going to continue on the rise, and they will have a culmination in 2013 in terms of manifestation. I think it's a warning. The right hand symbolizes spiritual awareness and development, is more religions and the New Age. So that one has a unity of spirit and purpose, like the ascension, the enlightenment of the human race, the development of a pain-free, balanced world. And it seems to be far more refined, but not as monstrously strong as the satanic and evil and the gratuitous violence and evil that we are going to see in terms of weapons, satanic abuse, conspiracies, social decay, weapons, environment, everything. This challenge is going to grow in terms of being more visible and here in the next 2 years, and we should brace ourselves for that.
But for the moment, can we go back to your first memory?
Yeah.
Being in Greece with your mum and your grandma, and you encountered shadow people.
That was a real double life. So we had a very nice country house. We had actually an American family living upstairs from us, a nice garden. And what happened was in January 1962, the first contact was from the mountains on Parnithites, the east of Athens. It was those huge clouds on the mountains, and it was like the clouds was a person actually telling me, I love you, I'll be with you. The next thing is there was a black shadow which seemed to be familiar to me. So it seemed to be like a friend, a young guy, let's say about 18 years old. But he wasn't alone. There was also a crowd of about 80,000 like ghosts, all of them black, like Dominican monks. You know, like the Grim Reaper, but without the
scythe.
Yes, hooded, with black, no faces, and very sinister.
So was this in a dream, or you were actually visioning this?
It was usually starting afternoon, 7, 8 in the evening, and it was getting stronger. Sometimes it would even start at 3 in the afternoon, and I was watching my mother. Can she see all this? Because my young friend, this young guy, about 18, well, I used to sit on my bed here, so he was sitting to my right.
He was a shadow being?
Yeah, he was a shadow. He was sitting to my right, and that was the bedroom. My mother's bed was there. She was there. I was watching her to see her reaction. And all these Grim Reapers were from the living room and the kitchen and the bathroom. So they would leave us some space and jump the rest of the house. So I was watching. My mother would sense something giving her grief, and she would just have a coffee and then sleep.
Was your father around at this time, Joanna?
My father wasn't. He was visiting on weekends only.
Okay.
So my mother would sense a presence that would depress her and just go to sleep, nothing else. My grandmother could see that something is going on. I have some type of a secret, but she couldn't understand what it is. So this new friend wasn't someone, it wasn't like a fantasy friend, because if I had imagined a fantasy friend, it was going to be someone funky, to play with, amusing, entertaining, and not a black shadow for sure. It was like a horror movie, because I had a feeling that we are bonded with this new friend, but I didn't like him being there all the time for a whole year, because this went on until December 1962. In the beginning, 1962 was the year where Marilyn Monroe was a celebrity, and then the Kennedy family. So we used to play a game. I would take various magazines or books, and when I had them closed, he would become like a cloud. And when I would open them, he would become more solid, more with a face, more visible. So we used to play this game, and he used to say to me, look, I love you very much, and we're going to meet in 39 years. And I'll make your life wonderful, except I have arranged with 4 of my friends to kill you because I'm afraid of you.
To a 4-year-old girl?
Yes. One of these days during the year, I think it was summer, his friends showed up, and they were gathered, there were 4 ghosts gathered outside the front door, looking inside the house very angrily. But I wasn't inside the house, I was at the other side, looking at them. And I could sense the anger, the rage in them. and I couldn't understand why. These shadows, these green reapers, were extremely intimidating, and they used to threaten me. Then my friend would disappear, and they would just threaten me.
In what manner?
They would stand, especially when my mother would go out. So when I was alone at home, they were really becoming more alive. So I would hide knives and scissors under the pillows, because I could feel them threatening and approaching, coming closer. And they would tell me, look, your mother and your father are going to have very short lives, and that's because of you. And your mother is going to die very suddenly in a terrifying accident, and it's going to be like now, almost midnight. And your father is going to die from a terrible illness, and you are crying. You're going to cry a lot about your father's death. It's going to be a terrible wasting illness and grief. And because they were so massive and getting bigger and taller, especially late at night, I would just get stomach pains and anxiety, and I would fall into for an hour or so. It was one speaking for all of them, and it wasn't my friend. So after a couple of days, because I had these threats 2-3 nights in a row, I asked my friend, is this really going to happen to my parents? And he said, you have to ask them questions. He said, ask them who they are. And I said, I'm not asking them who they are, they're devils. And he really didn't like my answer. And he started changing shape. He started, instead of being an 18-year-old guy, he started being a bloated old guy with a beard, like 55. And he would stay silent, and our communication was disrupted. But then he would show up again. And sometimes I didn't want all this, and I wanted to get rid of them from the house. So I was thinking, if they show up tonight again, I'm not having this anymore. So one time I threw myself down the stairs. Another time I threw myself down the stairs outside, but someone picked me up. Another time I threw myself in a ditch with asbestos, but again, someone picked me up.
And was this because you thought if you died, then that would stop?
If I have an accident or a big shock or a big injury, somehow I'll get rid of them. That's what I thought. And I had the feeling I can't get rid of them. But anyway, December arrived. So he told me, I'm going to see you in 39 years. We have a date. And when in 30 years from now, so that was 62, in 30 years from now, make sure you study the Revelation, and this will change your life. This I remember, the year 1992, I did study the Revelation very intensively, which is written in Greek. It's authentic language to study it. I did this together with my ex-husband. We decided after that to come to London. We were in Belgium, and that's when we came here after 2 months. I can't say it changed my life or my perspective on life, but I would say that I remembered it on time. Strange things were happening around the house in Belgium. I had a contact where I couldn't see any UFO or anything, and they told me that they are a spaceship behind Jupiter, but I didn't actually see physically anything. I said, who are you? Because that was a telepathic. And they said, oh, we are Adam and Eve. I think it was telepathic, and it was some type of disembodied beings, not encroaching in my home, in my space, accessing me telepathically, and saying that they have a spaceship behind Jupiter. I didn't see anything.
Was your husband also having any experiences during this time?
He was participating in the study. I can't say that he saw them.
And has he had any experiences at all around you of seeing any beings?
So far, he hasn't told me anything, because he's also a kind of person who is the silent type. The only unusual thing he told me was that when he was a child, he experienced like someone took him and they were flying in the sky over the neighborhood in Athens, over the house, over the gas station. So he had an out-of-body experience.
So you had this telepathic message in Belgium. When would that be?
92.
Oh, so that was 92.
So I remembered it. I had that visit from that ghost. I'm supposed now to study the revelation.
Changed.
Nothing really changed except that we decided to come to Britain and stayed here since then. So there was actually a date in 2001. I started a new job in Greater London. And there I met both the young guy who was this black shadow friend and the 4 guys who were going to kill me.
Was it an instant recognition?
No, we were talking for 3 months and so on. The recognition was when I saw the Grim Reapers coming out from the ground around him and going into his body, because that was what brought back all this 1962 horror.
Had you effectively suppressed it since then?
From 1962 I had suppressed it. It was like being in a thriller or in a horror movie like The Shining, like Angel Heart, that sort of really dark. So I forgot about it, and I didn't know what to do about it. Prepare, or why would that meeting would be important, or whatever, nothing. So when I actually saw all these Grim Reapers coming out of the earth and going into his body, really squeezing into his body with the same threatening.
Were the other 4 people with him at this time that you saw that?
Yes, they were around him, they were close friends, and of course they remember nothing, and none of them has the slightest idea or the slightest premonition that 1 year before they were conceived, because I don't think they were all born in 1963, some of them maybe are younger, they were actually in my home in Greece, in the shadow form, and that actually 1 year before conception, people are so busy arranging who they're gonna meet and who they're gonna kill and this and that and the other, and telling you what to read and when. So I had no interest in past lives at all up to that time. But then I understood past lives are real, and the fact that we get a complete blackout amnesia is also very real. So I just, the social environment was totally casual, and it was impossible to approach this subject. And I started looking for methods to recall past lives. The shadow friend started visiting from January 1962, and I moved in his area. We met on the 5th of February 2001, and I realized Grim Reapers showed up end of April 2001. It didn't occur to me from February the 5th until the end of April that this was the guy, the shadow friend.
So you hadn't recognized him facially?
No way. And the energy or the personality was very different, but the Grim Reapers were identical.
And what about the other 4 that you saw in body?
I recognized one of them very, very clearly from his energy, and then gradually another 2. So maybe I'm missing one, but I did. And they were people who never spent any time to get to know me. They were just his friends over this. And I don't think he was ever going, any of them, to believe that they were so busy 1 year before they were conceived.
And you think that they were probably born between 63 and, say, 70?
Yeah, they were born between 63 and 67, 68. It's very astonishing.
It is astonishing.
I started looking how to open past lives, and there I found a point, a really good one. But if we move back to my life, my stable datum, that's to say, the one thing I consider important was to become somebody.
Because am I right in thinking that you studied law?
So originally I was interested in fine art. I wanted to study painting, but eventually I studied law. Now I made some notes here because I suppressed all these things. In 1965, I had an encounter with two angels in my father's garden. So one angel brought a younger angel in the south of the garden, springtime, and I was told, this is going to be your closest friend all your life, to keep you company. So I made a note of that, and then I forgot about it. In 1965, I was 7.
So were the angels very material to you?
They were very bright, they were genuine angels with a good harmony, with nothing hidden or sinister about them, with light, with clarity, and it was daytime. And it was a taller angel, but an angel, not an alien or anything else. Younger, smaller angel. They were holding him from the hand, really, like a child, or like he was afraid of the aggressive environment. This person, the younger angel, is actually my husband now. He was conceived towards the end of 65. He was born in 66. We met in 1987, and we've been together ever since. And although we totally disagree by now about everything, still close friends. And I can understand why he was holding the other angel so tight by the hand. He does find the environment threatening. And a lot of things, like conspiracies, being stalked or this and that, he can't cope with it, and he just wants nothing to discuss, nothing to confront.
But
he should basically move on, because I did something fantastic. I made the aliens angry.
Who are they, and when did you first become aware of them?
That's my thing, actually. I managed to make them furious, and that's why they showed up. Otherwise, they were never going to show up. Okay. But I have a talent to make them hit the roof with anger. So the encounters I had with them are very angry. So what I did, from 1966, I was living with my father, who had a huge library and wanted me to learn yoga and meditation, and I started very early. By 1972, I had developed the belief system that the world around us is an illusion.
So at 14?
Yes. Then I started a serious meditation with a book called Concentration by Muni Sadhu, who was actually, I think, a Polish guy. The concentration book had very, very strict exercises on how to focus your mind and close down all the stream of thought, and then decide what you want to do and have it done by decision only. So I decided what I want to do is I want to get out of this planet and see things from outside the planet, North Pole, from high up, not from the body anymore. So I managed to practice with a stop clock to be able to stop my mind completely for up to 3 minutes at a time. And one day I decided, that's it, I'm out of here. It had been done, it is being done, it will be done, and I was gone. And I ripped off something, a field, which was like transparent bubbles, white with a bit blue and red dot, like some kind of a field around the earth that has these colors. So I ripped this off, and next moment I could see the planet Earth from several miles up the North Pole. As I was watching the planet, there was quiet. You know, we are under tremendous, many layers of noise. And as I was now finding my space and myself, and free at last, it was 2 black ribbons, like 2 black carpets about 2 feet wide, that really hit me from behind and pulled me back to the heart of the body. So I was pulled back by these black ribbons which lashed out of my body, which I had in the room, sitting down in meditation and totally out of my way. They were there. To me, I thought I was free for about a minute and a half. But when this pulled me back in the body, in the heart, it had been half an hour. And when I landed back in the body, I noticed that we are under layers of sound. There is a tremendous roar from the waters, the rotation of the earth, the various fields, and we are practically deaf as spirit from the noise. It's completely hypnotic, and it's keeping us pinned in the body and in a state of hypnosis or in a state of paralysis. We are paralyzed by noise that doesn't go through our ears. It actually jumps completely up. We are really being knocked out by the noise, and then we limit our perception to what we hear through the ear, which is 1% of the actual noise going around.
How does this tie in with your alien experiences?
Yeah, this actually, that's when I realized aliens do exist. Someone did notice my meditation thing, and someone got very angry, because I did that Sunday evening, about 8 o'clock, when nobody was at home, so it was peace and quiet. And then it was Wednesday night, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night, I wake up because something hit me at the back of my head like a baseball bat. So I was sleeping, and maybe 2 or 3 in the morning, something hits me. Bam! I wake up, turn around, and I see a white ghost, like Catholic statue of an angel, the ones you see with a very fine face and the hair parted in the middle. But it was made like a half-transparent bedsheet, white. So while the face and everything was just like these sculptures in Catholic churches, I could see that under the garments there was no body or legs or anything. It was like a bedsheet. This thing was standing on the window panes, and first it was looking northwest across my room, and northwest is where my flying star is, because I'm a metal, flying star 6. So northwest is my direction. It's like someone inspecting your baggage or your things. They are checking your direction. So the creature was getting information about my future and things.
What size was this being?
5 foot 5 to 5 foot 5, an average height. And then he turned around to me and looked at me with so much hate, so much silent hate. I thought this thing is not possible to ever fit in this planet. This planet is too small for so much hate. So I got up, and it raised its hand and hit me with a beam at the solar plexus, which got me down into bed and stiff and paralyzed for about half an hour, and it was gone. And that was Wednesday after midnight. That wasn't the end of that, because clearly this creature, which seemed to be like an evil female ghost, today, from my reference, I would call her Jezebel, a really evil demon, so wrathful. Hell has no fury like a female demon scorned. The next thing that happened, Saturday night, I was sitting at my desk about 7:30. So I was alert, the year is 74, I'm looking at my notes, doing a few things, and then I'm taken away as an awareness unit and not abducted. My body stayed at my desk, but my awareness followed a black energy which was my own. So what happened was, 1 minute I'm busy at my desk, the next minute my body is in the same place, but I see something black that I recognize as my own. And when I try to look at it, to pay attention, what is it that it's my own, I find myself in a body, in a life support machine, which was almost exactly like the bodies of the grey. So it's this thing with the large head, but it had round eyes, small nose, no eyelashes, very black eyes. It had a hole at the top of the head. There was a trail of blood streaming down in the middle of the face. It had a very large mouth with no teeth at all, and it had no vocal cord, so that could not scream in any way. And it was in a capsule. It was about 3 feet, a normal body, in a capsule.
Lying
Yes,
down?
it was in a capsule like this, oval capsule. So what happened, I found myself in the body.
And do you think this was you?
That was me. I was inside that body, and I didn't look at it from the outside. I went in there because I saw a black energy which I consider something of my own. So I moved like the speed of light to energy, a black energy, to look at it closer. And I find myself being a grey in a life support machine, which was at this shape of a transparent capsule with fluid up to here.
Fluid up to the head?
It was up to the head. So I went through corridors, which was something like 3 levels. I went like this, and I ended up in front of a large console desk. So I ended up here, this capsule, with my body. And my head got out of the capsule while the rest of the body stayed in. So the capsules, there was thousands of capsules with similar grey bodies stacked up along the walls of these tunnels. And in the middle it's like pressure air or something else. So my capsule went out of the place and traveled here in that direction. It could travel upwards like that and end up in a console in front of a desk. The point is that when the capsule stopped the desk, there was a very large desk here, and here was what the others call the Great One. I call him the vertical rainbow, because to me he was behind the desk and he looked like a vertical rainbow with all the colors, the spectrum of colors, and the face like a pharaoh.
Like a pharaoh?
Like the Egyptian, So, and my capsule was here, so my head was out of the capsule, and he stuck a plug with electricity straight in that hole up here at the top of my head, which was at least 1 inch to 1.5 inches deep. And he started doing me an electroshock, a heavy-duty electroshock, and screaming at me all the time in a language that I could understand completely, but he was talking extremely angry and extremely fast, so I only caught half what he was saying. It's severe pain, obviously, to have an electrode, and that body is exactly for this purpose. It was a body of a grey in a life support machine. This black energy must be some compressed files in electromagnetic form, maybe past lives, maybe goals I want to achieve, something I consider my own. So I go to what I consider my own energy to look at it, and I find myself in a body, and this is not any hallucination or illusion. It's an enforced reality. There's nothing else I can do. From the moment I look at the specific energy, I'm sucked into it because all my attention has been taken away, so I'm not in control of my attention. My attention is prisoner in a body. So I'm prisoner in a body, in a life support machine, and this body had no teeth or vocal cords. So I was being tortured and I couldn't scream, and he was screaming at me tremendously, very, very, very angry, and he had this type of face and a field around him which was the colors of the spectrum, starting from red and all the way down to indigo.
So what sort of sense of communication did you get from him? You say that he was torturing you for...
He was, in order to talk to me, I had to be in getting tortured. That to have an impact on me, It was both electroshock, me in a very weak body with no movement, in a life support, in a transparent tube with a fluid, and unable to make any sound, unable to move, unable to close my eyes. There were no eyebrows, there were no eyelids, there was nothing. I just had to stare at him and try to scream, but nothing coming out. And he was screaming to me, "Get back where you are, because your work is here! And if you don't, this, I'm going to destroy everything! Do you get me? Don't ever do that again!" It was like this type of rage. He was screaming me out with a complete rage. And to have more impact on me, he had this electroshock thing. And the next thing, I find myself back to my desk.
And have you any idea at all what he is talking about when he says, get back to what you should be doing?
Actually, I was thinking about it. I was thinking, what am I supposed to be doing? So when I was back to my desk, I thought, right, all this lasted about 40 minutes maximum, the whole thing. So I was back in my own body. So I said, I'll go out for a walk, get some fresh air. How do I deal with this type? So I said, first thing, I don't like him. I don't like the white one I saw on Wednesday. I don't like them both. I really don't like the fact that these two can actually find me anywhere I am and show up anytime. I thought I really need to avoid that. It shouldn't happen ever again. So I had a walk. I said, this has to stop. Right here, right now. What I have to do is to tune down my perception. I don't want to look at them, I don't want to talk to them, I don't want to see them again. So I thought what I was doing yoga, I am a vegan, I eat salad and nuts and things. This has to change. From now on it's gonna be steak and chips, like really red meat, to tune down all my perceptions.
To desensitize yourself a bit.
Yes, exactly. Especially red meat is very hard to digest, and it managed to cut down my hearing, because my hearing was very acute. It was the worst of all. However, it looks like if you get, there are bodies of greys in life support capsules. They are stuck up in walls, in tunnels, just like I did, about 3 levels. My impression is that these loops are about 400 miles long. So there's 3 or 4 levels.
400 miles long?
Yeah. So I thought this must be a mountain range. Do
you think that's on Earth, or are you
I think it's on Earth. Oh. Yes, I think it's on the ground. And I would assume it's either a mountain range on top or a desert. I don't know. I can't figure out. But it's really worth finding this place, because other people can be pulled and get tortured this way anytime they want. They are watching us.
Who do you think they are?
I call him the vertical rainbow, because that's the way he appeared to me, with all these colors, or I call him the pharaoh, because he had the face of a pharaoh. I think it's what we call Satan, a really evil intention, an individual who wants to be an absolute ruler, totalitarian ruler.
Did you say Satan? So you mean satanic?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think that when we're talking Satan, we're talking Ra, the solar god, because the sun is actually radioactive. So this guy is radioactive. So I would say that the element of the sun being a radioactive exploding mass is very similar to this guy, his energy.
And what do you think the purpose of your interaction is?
Oh, I found out what it was, the purpose of my interaction. First of all, the thing that made them angry is me, having my freedom of movement and being able to emancipate myself from the body and be out of the planet on my own decision, on my own time, and with my own ability. It's what we call exteriorization. Nobody forced me. I didn't have an illness or an accident. I wanted to go out and have a breath of fresh air outside the planet. So that's what I call freedom of movement and self-determinism. Okay. I don't have to be stuck, go to university and be under all these layers of sounds we are subjected to, which absolutely paralyze the spirit, totally paralyze the spirit. I changed my diet, tuned down my perception.
Did it work?
And yes, it did. And the next thing I found Scientology, where the term exteriorization is mentioned. So Scientology is about becoming at cause of a life. So how to be at cause of a life, the mind, the material energy, matter, space, society. I thought, and exteriorization from the body. I said exteriorization, so that's to say they call the soul or the awareness unit the thetan. So a Scientologist would say that what moved from my human body into the life support machine, that body, and got tortured, was me as an awareness unit.
Would you call it a soul? Would you call it a soul?
Yes, I would call it a soul. That's where my awareness was. So I said, great, Scientology, because no one seems to have trouble there. They must be able to exteriorize. So if I do my training, I hope I'll be able to go out of the planet again without any trouble, without this bully coming after me. So I thought, that's it. From 1975 I was a Scientologist. I stayed with studying because it came in handy with the past life. It came in handy after 2001. Scientology, and I think that's the good thing about it, is you have to look at life from what can you do at cause point, always, what others did to you. So I already had some experience, and I started working how to put together questions to open the past life. Because after 2001, after that date, it was a sure thing that we all have past lives, except we black out completely. So we get then into a different phase.
And how do you find that this has impacted on your daily living?
I had different expectations from Scientology. I thought I would, manage to have freedom of movement, be able to go on the planet whenever I want, anywhere I want. This cannot happen. We are not allowed to do that. It's possible, but it's under certain terms and conditions, which Scientology is the bridge to get there, but they're not inside the official levels. So you have to go a step above and outside Scientology to actually achieve emancipation from the body and the enforced reality of the body. Because let's face it, if you get a toothache, it's not an illusion. Pain and torture is not an illusion. It's enforced reality. You can't go away from it. You can't stop it. It's force on your awareness. So life is not an illusion. It may be a virtual reality, the way we perceive it from our body, because we measure time from our body, past and future. But it's enforced reality, while being able to be yourself without the body, anywhere you want, that's freedom, and that's true self. There, we have a barrier. We don't have freedom of movement, and this is going in the direction of the ascension.
So if you can just give us a couple of minutes, sort of pulling together what your feelings are about this sort of section of your life.
There was another interference in between. In 1978, I went to Strasbourg to study human rights. I was a law student, and there I met a material match. I met a German law student who was my perfect match in terms materially. That's to say, he was speaking many languages. He also liked human rights. He had multicultural friends. We were a perfect couple in terms of what we want to achieve in life and be together and do it all. However, this guy showed up again because clearly he was inspecting where I'm supposed to go.
Joanna had been telling us about this experience that she had here where she was electroshocked and in fact tortured by this being she calls the vertical rainbow person, aligning it to Ra. Some medical implications from this experience, and I would like Joanna to tell us what they are.
So what happened after that was my eyesight, which was 20/20 up to 1974, started deteriorating very rapidly. 12 out of 20 of my eyesight on both eyes in the next 4 years. And since then I'm wearing these very, very thick glasses. And the other thing that happened was my growth stopped, so I stayed 5'2", which was the height I had in 1974 when I was 16. So my growth stopped, and I think this has a similarity with the body in the life support, because those bodies are designed not to have any growth hormone.
And you mentioned also your thyroid?
My thyroid was gone, destroyed 100%, plus I had circulation problems. The only thing I managed to fix, so the medical impact was huge, and it looks like there is a resonance. There's a resonance between the human body and any other body. And I think that this resonance may very well be some initial or superior goals that link the two bodies together. Maybe our true self is consolidated in energy, and it affects both bodies.
Right.
So loss of eyesight, thyroid damage, stopping of growth, circulation problems. To compensate for that, I did martial arts later. So I was in very good shape, but this didn't fix my eyes or my thyroid. Didn't bring back the growth hormone. It didn't. The bottom line from this experience is that I thought I had free choice with my life. The shadow ghosts and the angels were friends, and they showed up in human form. So, but the aliens had a different program for me, so I wasn't supposed to exteriorize from my body to achieve the end goal of Scientology and be free from my body. I wasn't supposed to marry the wrong man, so they actually stopped me. They actually terrorized us in Switzerland to stop this relationship. Because if I had married this guy and went to Germany, I also had to have an abortion then. If I had kept the child, married the guy and lived in Germany, I was never going to find myself in England and meet the shadow people from 1962. That was the whole point, that in 1978, by meeting someone I find compatible, I was going to wreck the plan of these aliens, or whatever else I had decided before I was born, because we all do. So clearly I had a different program before I was conceived and born. Then I meet this German guy and I say, right, fine. I don't mind being pregnant, I'll marry him, we are a perfect match. So this guy shows up again, a rainbow with the pharaoh personality, shows up to terrorize us like a poltergeist, and to make me decide to have an abortion and give up the relationship. And 1978, and that was crucial because otherwise I wouldn't be in Britain. I wasn't going to find out that we have all made agendas and decisions before we were even conceived. Then we forget everything, so that's why we do have interference.
So you came to Britain, you had this meeting in 2001 of these shadow beings from 1962, so 39 years later on the button. What is the outcome of that so far? So here we are 10 years on, that you met these beings again, these people again who didn't even know that they were
They didn't, but obviously I remembered especially those shadows who were threatening, because the things they said about my parents already happened. So my mother had passed away very suddenly. She fell off the balcony. It was after midnight, so it was a sudden and shocking death. She lost her balance.
And how old would you be at that time?
It was 95, 96, so my mother was 57. She was in Greece, I was in London. I meet those shadow people in 2001, so my mother already had this, which was exactly what they described. They didn't tell me she's gonna fall from, it's gonna be sudden and shocking. And my father had passed away from cancer in 1984. He was 67. Now, normally people in my family get to reach 80 to 85. So, matter of fact, what the shadow people were threatening, parents will die young, it came out true. I was going to learn more questions and get more data from this shadow friend of mine. However, I thought I need to question the Grim Reapers. Why do they have this attitude with me? And from Scientology, asking questions at cause. We always start at cause in Scientology. Let's say you have a violent husband. So we have someone who says, oh, my husband is beating me up every day. A Scientologist will put the victim at cause. Have you ever harmed your husband? Have you ever hidden something from your husband? So the victim says, oh yes, once I was hiding my husband's favorite leather gloves. So I bent one of his gloves and I took revenge on him.
Okay, so we now just to...
So you just put the victim at cause, asking him whether he has done something good or has something bad at cause point to his aggressor. To shift the viewpoint. With these entities, I thought I was trying to put together some questions to ask them. And I did. First of all, I asked them, who are you? Which they answered fully. Then I asked them, what intention of yours have I harmed? Now, from the question, who are you? They gave me so much data that I spent a week on that. What intention of yours have I harmed? It was another several days.
Just in a very short way, who they are?
Then I went to another question. I wouldn't want to do that. What do you want from me now? No, I asked them, have we ever lived together before? What do you want from me now? What have we promised each other before the beginning of time? We come to the things that we call oaths, oaths. These were entities. To run these questions, it took 6 months. The actual material that they gave telepathically lasted something from the tsunami disaster, which was about December 26, 2004, and the whole presence dissolved by July 2005.
Which presence had dissolved?
These entities,
okay.
the
Grim Reaper
shadow
ones.
people, the Grim Reaper ones. Because clearly, the only thing I could do now was find out who they are, what intentions had I harmed, have we lived together before, had we promised something else before the beginning of time. Found everything out, and not only that, this diffused whole threatening presence, and it also opened all my past lives, right through the last 3,000 to 4,000 years. So one after the other, my past lives, it was like, it took me another 1 year to come to terms with my past lives. On the basis of what had I done to those entities. So with me at cause, I had caused the death. The justification, my justification was national security. It was in France, it was 460 years I felt that I don't actually kill them first. They were Protestants. We're going to cut our throats. I was in a position gathering intelligence, and I had a crucial role triggering a slaughter, which is known as the St. Bartholomew's Massacre. And I did manage to find out what was my name, possibly, because I didn't remember my name, from what I've done. But then I moved on to all my other past lives, and by 2007 I found out that I also have a Pleiadian body, and these Pleiadian bodies, or Palladians as they're called, they're about 12 foot tall, speak another language. They have very strong energy, but they're energy bodies, they're not obviously flesh. They don't die, that's the difference. But they can fall in a coma, and I don't know how many people on Earth actually used to be Pleiadians. They can't take that body out from a coma, comatose. So the reason why we communicate from the flesh communication station is because when we were Pleiadians, our bodies were impacted by something and went comatose. And when we had grey bodies, our bodies are hostage in life support machines, and any time these scientists or Satans or demons want, they can actually pull us there and torture us. And maybe that's what they say, oh, you go to hell after if you sin. Or the torture was because I probably had arranged this present life different, and that I wasn't supposed at all to exteriorize from my body. I was supposed to be here and to actually prepare, marry my husband. That was, I had no opposition to that. So the guy who came as marry my husband, who is my best friend, my closest friend, meet this person in the Shadow People in 2001 to trigger actually my interest to find out past lives. From the past lives I find the Pleiadian body. We are being in many ways deceived about the structure of our true self. And that's another subject. The mind control exists to keep us away from the truth, because the truth would hurt Satan very much, because Satan is in control of the grey infrastructure, of the Pleiadian infrastructure, of the earth, science and development. There's something he doesn't want us to know. How he got to have so many assets? In my view, all the types of spacecraft that we meet, all the types of aliens, and all the previous civilizations which are far more advanced, are under his control. He got this by exploitation, so he's pretending to be someone else. And the mind control is keep us from the truth, the chance to go free and to be ourselves and to choose to be on any planet we want, the way we want, in our own time, in our own decision. There won't be another chance for freedom, maybe for 26,000 years, because these calendar cycles are very long. So from other research I've done, now is the time to get our freedom, what we call ascension, or to go back to our true self, and only this way we make the most of all this accelerated knowledge we have.
You also mentioned, Joanna, about the technology that humans are using against humans, electronically, microwave, etc.
Yes, there is also another truth teller on this, Barry Trower of the Royal Navy. He has given some extensive interviews, and he gives very accurate descriptions. He was at cause point, so he trained in microwave warfare. What he describes is very accurate from my experience at effect point as a victim.
Right.
The damage is absolutely tremendous. The personality modification is huge because your sense of space, your recall, your focus, your performance, your behavior changes. It's self-welfare, it's degradation of the body, loss of control of what you can achieve and what you can be as an individual. The microchip can actually transmit other people's experience straight into your brain and live the experience as at first person. So I know this from other victims. For example, there could be another woman getting raped in Yugoslavia and store the actual rape in a form that can be placed in a file on a laptop. If you have an edible microchip, not even an implant, not even an RFID, but a tiny edible microchip, they can actually transmit within a short range, I would say 30 to 40 meters, something like 100 feet. With a click of a mouse, you're going to leave what her brain perceived. The violence, the beating, the strangling or whatever of that rape in first person. What they can also do is overwrite layers of torture. So you can have the signal of a person being tortured with a knife plus the flu illness of another person plus the defective heart valve of a third person, one over the other. In other words, they can actually input your brain, and this microchip input is going to bypass any other function you have completely. They can keep that as long as they want. So if they want to torture you 4 hours, it's 4 hours. 10 hours, it's 10 hours. Every day, it's going to be every day until you have a heart attack. The biggest risk from this type of torture is heart attack, because the pain levels are 50 times above human threshold. I think that the chip I got must be edible. It's not an implant in your food, on something that's not cooked, or I don't know, an ice cream or on a burger, or full in a sachet of salt, because it's smaller than a grain of salt. It's a trauma-based control, so they say it's mind control when it actually is brain tissue damage. If you combine brain tissue damage with cardiovascular damage plus microchip transmissions, the person is completely under control. Other victims I've seen get brain tissue damage.
Is the brain tissue damage from microwave being beamed at them, do you
yes,
think?
people are getting gang stalked. So they have about 25 people on the watch around every target. And they target the heads to deplete them from negative ions, to deplete them from calcium. Then they send signals through microchips. Plus they damage with extreme low frequencies the cardiovascular system, because all the electromagnetic range harms the cardiovascular a great deal, as well as the metabolism. By doing physical damage, brain depletion or tissue damage, plus a transmission by microchip, you have someone under control completely. And all these people are on incapacity and are being treated as mentally ill, not injured, which is what they are. There is military grade shielding. I tried to get a roll 200 feet.
Did it help?
I don't get it because UK services, call them MI5 or MI6, are totally against it. Nobody has shielding here. It's a fabric, patented in 2008. The new patent blocks out everything. Maybe the Queen has it, but nobody else. I don't even think the Prime Minister has it. No one. What it is landline can transmit radio waves. Run a landline on an electricity line. You can dial in telephone line and have a switch or a special switch or converter, which is, from what we know, it's black box is about 2 inches attached. So you dial in the landline and then you dial a code and it sends out from the converter microwave, high frequency laser, high frequency microwave, or extreme low frequencies through the wiring of the building, the entire wiring. So then you think, I switch on the central supply, it's going to disconnect. But what they do is they pull in from other sources, backup electricity line. Even though your fridge will stop working, they still have connection to beam down harmful frequencies, and they cause a lot of things. They actually started changing my moles, started becoming precancerous, started changing color, peeling off, because this is the hand is exposed when I'm sleeping, while this one is not. I sleep on my right side always. So it has started making me precancerous. This is a stealth technology. What they did when I reported that is they sent the national grid, and of course they gave the wrong directions. So they sent it one block away when they actually needed to check in my building electricity from my corridor to the wiring into my flat, because that's where the rigging of the electricity is done. It's not done outside the street. It's done from inside the house into, and not from the box. Mm-hmm. It's not like the smart meter. It's from the actual cable.
And you mentioned your husband had, I think in 2008, been getting some vivid dreams of you being in danger.
Yeah, he was in Greece for 4 years. We had separated, 2004, 2008, and he had these vivid dreams that I'm going to be in danger. He came here and soon enough was in danger. My husband doesn't share my views and has never read my blogs or anything else, and he's not interested in Scientology at all. The danger showed up in Scotland. My blog, I had a blog where some things are useful and some things are just ranting. So it was probably misinterpreted. So they placed some electronic harassment directed energy weapons in an empty flat downstairs from me. I understood what they are, so I told the council to get those people out of there. The council delayed, so I pressured the police out of ignorance. I didn't know that the police have instructions to stay out of it. So I was telling the police, raid them. These are weapons. They're beaming, severe pain. I get a heart attack. I get suffocation. You have to raid them now. If I knew better that this is a standard policy to stay out of it and deny that this is happening. It's not likely to be happening. Of course, directed energy exists, but it's not likely in an urban environment. Please talk to your doctor. We're worried about your sanity. So I didn't know I'm pressuring to raid instead of going away to avoid exposure, because the 9-day exposure of my persistence to pressure the police and the housing council really damaged my health. So I was very angry one day, and I took they were locked in that flat. They came out one day, they went back in and locked the door and were hiding and pretending no one is there. And I took a concrete block, tried to smash the front window to open the door from outside. But the glass was absolutely shatterproof. The concrete block smashed, so I had to give up. Obviously, I had been seen by the neighbors, and I was hit from a van from the outside, and not from the people with the directed weapons inside. They could have shot me from inside and give me a heart attack right outside the front door. Instead, I was blasted from a van from the street, which hit me on my left, and immediately my blood pressure went over to 120, so I took a cab and went to accident emergency, where they saw that my blood pressure is high, my hands are swollen, and I'm very dehydrated. They said, we don't know what's this. Book you an appointment for tomorrow. The dehydration kept me in agony. This weapon is called active denial system, and it shoots the blood pressure up. If you don't drink a lot of cranberry and orange juice, acidic juice, not water, you can collapse with a heart attack. So I would say 80% of the targets just collapse in the street with a heart attack and spent 1 or 2 months in hospital recovering. Spent 10 hours walking and drinking fluids. I still insisted with the police, and they said, okay, let's drive you to hospital to check your heart. I was afraid I was going to have a heart attack. I didn't have one. I'm taken to Wishaw General Hospital. There they say, oh, there's no such thing as weapons. You're mentally ill. We worry about your mental health. So you're going to be in observation 28 days. I was locked up for 28 days, and I didn't take, I refused any Abilify, the thing they wanted. But I did take ibuprofen for the pain. The Mental Health Tribunal was a complete parody. They said these weapons are not being used, therefore that is a consistent delusion. I had a 22-page list of dead people and some coroner reports where the symptoms of the death have been from direct energy weapons. They said, oh, 22 pages, oh, that's too many pages, we can't submit that to the tribunal. I said, it's too many dead people. So they did not submit coroner's evidence that would be supportive. Bottom line is this, the active denial system breaks the teeth of the target. My teeth had started breaking in the hospital. 2 or 3 teeth started breaking at first, and then the rest of them all broke. I've lost most of my teeth, first where I was short and then the rest, in less than 10 months, and all the roots are inside. Because it was only the exposed part of the teeth, of the tooth, that got damaged. The next thing I'm supposed to do is go to a hospital and extract all the roots. And I'm not gonna do this because I'm still under some covert or stealth harassment from these weapons. And so my immune system is down. The point is not who's doing it. Is it the aliens or the MI5 or the National Security Agency? The point is it's the police departments that have to enforce Section 134 of the Criminal Justice Act that says that torture is an arrestable offense. However, you would have to have independent proof of torture. To have that, you need the computers of the Health Protection Agency, non-ionizing department in Chingford.
Okay, well, Joanna, we're going to have to wrap this up, but you've covered so many different aspects, from the mind control, the stealth technology, to the ET aspect. It's really covered a huge lot, and it's a whole lot for us to try and make sense of and extrapolate from that. I can see